Hello, guys! Welcome to another episode from
Don't panic, keep speaking Portuguese. This podcast is especially designed to help you improve your Portuguese skills through natural conversations about music, culture, Brazilian expressions and habits, stories, travel, and much more. So fasten your seatbelts and have fun. Unlock exclusive content, including behind the scenes, exclusive episodes, and episodes transcriptions. So, especially if you want to supercharge your Portuguese skills, join our Patreon crew and become part of our awesome community. Look for the Patreon link, don't miss out, and dive right in. And you might be wondering why Erica started this episode in English. And this is why. It's been a while now that I wanted to share a little bit more with you in English. But as you know, in our last episode, we have done that as guests in the Brazilian Talk podcast that we shared with you here also. And today we are going to keep our promises. And I'm having Vinicius here with me connected so we can keep our discussion on what kind of tips and hints can we give to people who struggle learning Brazilian Portuguese or achieving the fluency and dealing with the mistakes we have already discussed in our last episode. So welcome, Vinicius. This is another episode we are going to record entirely in English, and you are very welcome to Don't Panic, Keep Speaking Portuguese podcast.
Thanks, guys. It's so good to be here again with you guys. It's been a while since we last recorded something together. I think almost 2 years, right? And so I'm really excited to be here. Thanks for inviting me. And I hope you guys who are listening to us will benefit from this episode and the tips that we're going to offer you if you are studying Portuguese.
Yeah, and before going into the topic we're going to discuss, I just wanted to share two other details that I always wanted to share with our listeners, but I've never shared because I needed to share that in English. One thing, because I wanted to make sure that everyone would understand correctly. One thing is that Vinicius is one of the reasons we have actually a podcast, because in the beginning, years ago, he was the one who encouraged us to do that. So I wanted to thank Vinicius as well to that idea and to that motivation to start a podcast, start our own podcast. And the second thing I wanted to share is the reason why our podcast has this name, Don't Panic, Keep Speaking Portuguese. We have changed a little bit our logo recently, so it's more clean, more minimalistic, and also you don't see everywhere the name Don't Panic, but the idea behind Don't Panic, Keep Speaking Portuguese, it's really because I feel sorry, I can say in a way of speaking, for many people who are learning Portuguese, because it might feel overwhelming and too much when you start learning expressions and things and the way we speak, how informal Brazilians are, the different accents we have. So some students just freak out and panic. And that's why the name of our podcast, inspired in that, is the name Don't Panic, Just Keep Speaking Portuguese. And that's what we're going to do today in English. Tell you the reason why it's important to keep speaking Portuguese. And
Can I say something, Hugo?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, I would like to thank you guys for actually accepting the idea of launching a podcast in Portuguese. It's I remember our first conversations about it, and it's been a hit. So I'm really glad to, have had a little tiny part on that. And of course, the success that you guys have, it's very well deserved. And so congratulations for your podcast. I always recommend this podcast for my students, and they love it. So that's it. I really would like to take this as an opportunity to compliment you guys for the great work you've been doing.
Yeah, thank you. And who knows if after this come back with two collaborative episodes that we are building together, who knows if we are not gonna keep doing that more often, right? And joining our community, our listeners, and building something even greater and better together. Who knows? Yeah, let's leave that in the air in a sort of way. And so now our topic, the topic we promised. I want to ask you, we have discussed it in the last episode, the biggest mistakes we believe that can be preventing people to really achieve fluency and be able to communicate in Portuguese in a confident way. And just to remember, I said it has to do with translating everything and relying too much on literal translations. And you said that has to do about people using too much passive ways of learning. Am I correct?
Yeah, that's correct. That's exactly what we discussed in our latest episode. So if you haven't seen that yet, if you haven't watched that episode, we recommend you guys go there and listen to our previous podcast, our previous episode, where we discuss the biggest mistakes and problems we see when we help others to learn Portuguese. And yes, I do believe that using passive ways of learning the language is important, like listening to podcasts as you guys are doing now, or reading and watching movies and stuff is really important, but it can be a problem because it doesn't help you to communicate and speak. And so today we're going to try to offer you guys some tips on how you can overcome those two obstacles in a practical and easy way that will definitely help you to speak Portuguese more fluently and more easily.
Yeah, exactly that, Vinny. And you can already start with your opinion. What do you think is the best way to deal with those mistakes, to overcome those challenges?
Yeah, so I would say it's pretty simple. But instead of starting by saying what I believe will help you to overcome this obstacle, I think it's important to explain why people find it so hard to speak Portuguese. And I see usually two different reasons. One of them is that they just don't have the opportunity to use the language. So maybe it's your situation, you're listening to us right now. So maybe you live in a place where you don't have many Brazilian people living around you, or you don't have many Brazilian friends. Maybe you don't have anyone in your family who's Brazilian, and maybe you have never been to Brazil. And so that can be a challenge, because how are you going to practice the language if you are not surrounded by people who speak the language? So that is one problem that I see. And the other reason why people struggle with speaking the language is that they are afraid to make mistakes. And we actually mentioned it last time, recording this episode in English. Even though we are afraid to make mistakes, and we know we are making a lot of mistakes, but when you are too afraid to make mistakes, it can really be a problem. So I would say those are the two reasons why people don't speak the language so much. They spend much more time reading and listening and watching something in Portuguese because it's easier. You will not make any mistakes. You are just receiving information. And so now to answer the question, what I believe is the key to overcome this obstacle.
Before, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but before you answering this question, I actually wanted to say that even people, the fear of making mistakes is so a huge problem that even people that are surrounded by Brazilians, by maybe family members that speak Portuguese.
That was just an example to make you guys understand that we are not afraid of making mistakes.
Yeah, I think they have seen that or have listened to that at my first sentence. So not a huge problem at all. But anyway, people are surrounded by friends, but the fear is so much or is so great so huge, I don't know, that they just can't. And I can relate to that, because even here, like Erica, it's speaking English better now. She's practicing her English. I'm not a native English, of course, so I'm not 100% comfortable speaking English, but it's hard when we are at our comfortable zone at home speaking English. We could agree that, okay, let's speak English for a whole day so we can practice. I can practice, Erica could practice, but it's not natural. We just, like, after 10 minutes, we give up. And I believe that happens also with people that have a partner, for example, that is Brazilian, and they understand Portuguese, but they just don't practice with their partner. And that's funny, because from outside we think, okay, you have everything you need at your own home to achieve fluency, a partner. But we totally understand there are some other things that might prevent you to really do that. And that's why we are recording this, and to discuss what we can make to fix that. So I'm sorry the interruption. I just wanted to comment on that, to agree with you, Vinny. But yes, we want to hear the solution now. Let's go.
That's great. And I agree with you. Yeah. I also have many students who are married to Brazilian people, and it's a struggle for them, for sure. So yeah, getting back to the answer, I would say that the solution, or the key to overcoming this problem, is speaking Portuguese. And I know it sounds like
keep speaking Portuguese. Ta-da!
Exactly, yeah. So speak Portuguese. That's the key. But of course, how can you do that? So first, I mentioned the problem and the challenge of not having Brazilian people around you. Maybe you want to speak the language and you're not afraid of making mistakes, but you don't live in Brazil and you don't have many Brazilian friends who you can talk to. So what can you do? I would say that today we live in a time where it's a privilege, actually, for those who are learning a language. You can connect to anyone and basically anywhere in the world. And so what I would suggest is connect to people who speak the language online. And you can do that using some platforms where you can find tutors and teachers who will teach you the language, basically focusing on conversation. There are many platforms that can do that. We can, of course, maybe record another episode and talk about some of those options that are available out there. We ourselves are working on something similar that is actually, I think Hugo is going to talk about it, but we are also offering that for our students, the opportunity to really speak the language. And I think that is one of the keys to overcoming this obstacle. And when I mentioned that another problem is the fear people have of making mistakes, I would say that the key to overcome this problem, it's a little bit more difficult because it's inside. It's not something that is external. But basically, you need to change your mindset. And I know that's something that people have been saying all the time. Now you have those coaches, those online coaches saying that. But you need to change your mindset and understand that making mistakes doesn't make you less of a person. No, actually, it's commendable. It's impressive that you are making the effort to learn a second or third language. And that is beautiful. So making mistakes is fine. And you need to understand that. You need to be able to laugh at yourself when you make mistakes. Those will be the best memories and funniest stories that you will have to tell. The moments when you messed up something or you ended up saying something that you should not have said. So just see that in a positive way and learn to be able to laugh at your own mistakes. Those are my 2 tips for you who are listening to us and maybe struggle to speak the language. So try to have lessons with especially native teachers, connect with people from Brazil, and if you are afraid to use the language because you're afraid of making mistakes, change the way you see yourself and change the way you see mistakes. So that's my tip. I don't know if you agree with that, Hugo.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think we should really record another episode sometimes in English, just as we have done these two episodes, talking about those kind of things that are important for people to overcome their fears and their struggles in the way of learning Portuguese, and discussing also these other apps and other platforms people use. I think it would be good to share our perspectives on pros and cons of this, like good things and bad things you can find on those platforms, and how to use those platforms well, because there are so many, and there are many ways also of using those tools. And if you don't use the right way, it won't help you a lot as well. About what you said, that it's a problem that it's inside, I just wanted to share something that has to do with the solution we are offering. But I'm gonna do that at the end. So don't remind me, please, Vinny. Don't let me forget that I have something to share that makes the thing we are building together, our program, interesting and unique. Yeah, and what we wanted also with that it's different from what people can find anywhere else.
Exactly.
So,
We
yeah.
want to hear what is your tip on how to overcome this obstacle of you mentioned last time translating everything, and translating way too much can be a problem. So what do you think can help our listeners now to overcome that problem?
Yes, exactly. That's simple. Also, everything is simple, right? We are discussing deep problems, but when we give the solution is simple. Applying the solution, it's not that simple. But
It's another 500, as we would say.
yeah, as we say in Portuguese, is another 500. And if you don't know that expression, yeah, you go to our Instagram, because we're going to share something, or we have already shared there, another 500. But the thing is, for overcoming this difficult with translating word by word everything, I believe one practical thing I suggest to my students is looking into Google Image instead of looking at everything in Google Translations. Because Google Translator can be good, but it can not be good, and you need to use it wisely. And I'm going to talk about that later, but not using translations every time you need a word. For example, you don't know the word for, I don't know, or you don't know what mean a word you have listened in our podcast, a Portuguese word, I don't know, the maçaneta. Let's think about this word. Yeah, maçaneta. What in the world is maçaneta? Then instead of going to Google Translator and type maçaneta, you should go at Google Image and look for images of maçaneta. And then, of course, that won't work every single time, because sometimes you have multiple meanings for one word, or if it is an expression, and the outcome you get from Google Images might not be that clear, but it will help you, because sometimes you just type and okay, it's that, and then you create a connection with the word maçaneta. You might find that maçanetas in Brazil are slightly different from the English translation for that word, and then that will create on your brain a unique connection with the word maçaneta. And that's a different way of approaching things you want to learn, instead of going right away to Google Translator. And as well, as you know, Google Translator often make mistakes. And if you just put the word, and that's my second tip, trying to learn ideas instead of words. So if you want to learn another word, it might be a word that have multiple meanings, like manga. So of course, let's say you've heard the word manga and then you don't know what it is. It might not help you type manga on Google Image, because you have many ways to use manga and many multiple meanings, possible translations. And then you go to my second solution, that would be learn in the context. So instead of learning singular words, learn the whole expression. So what's manga connected to? If it's manga da camisa, then it's one thing. But if it's, essa manga tá deliciosa, this manga is delicious, so it's another thing. And then that would be the idea. So not learning only words, and you indeed can use Google Translator as long as you use it wisely. So first thing, don't use the Google Translator, just the small box it shows you on Google when you type something you want to translate, but actually use the site Google Translator, because it's a different thing. And on the site you can look for synonyms, you have the definition, you can see how it applies in a sentence. So you have a bunch of other tools you can use in Google Translator. So if you use it wisely and you type a whole sentence instead of just a word, that might help you. So just keep in mind you can learn expressions and not only words. So to summarize, the two tips would be using images, so you avoid only word by word translations, and also when looking for the meaning of something, try to see the whole picture instead of just one word or even one sentence. Try to see the whole context and learn the words together. So you learn. I had another example.
And can I add something to that?
Yeah, please help me with. I'm trying to think of an example, and I just can't remember.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to help you with an example. I just want to
Yeah.
I just want to add something to that. And I think it especially helps, like connecting words in Portuguese that you learn to images and concepts, and it really helps you to connect that to feelings, to an experience, kind of, right? And it definitely helps, especially with words that are difficult to translate, because sometimes you have words that do not exist in a different language. And we have some classical examples in Portuguese. For example, we could say cafuné, and which is like scratching, gently scratching someone's head as a sign of affection. So this kind of thing, you kind of lose the sense of it, the feeling behind the words, because gently scratching someone's head as a sign of affection.
That's too technical. That's too technical.
Exactly. It's so technical. So you can really feel the how do Brazilians actually see it. And if you type that on Google Image and you see that kind of shows how we see that. And that can help you to connect the word or the expression to a feeling, and really get the connotation of the word as well. So that's just another tip that I would offer. Actually, it's the same tip, just something that I would add to what Hugo said about using other methods to connect words that you learn to ideas, and not just to other words in English, because sometimes there will not be a direct translation for that word.
Yeah, and you gave people a very good reason to do that what you mentioned about connection with feeling, that's something amazing to help people not forget what they are learning. And I remembered what I wanted to share. The example that I wanted to give has to do with a very simple word, gostar, for example, in Portuguese. If you learn just the word gostar, it's okay, but if you learn a whole expression, for example, that can even help you to learn something students always struggle with, that is prepositions. For example, you will see, if you learn like, gostei de você, or eu gosto de café. So then you start to understand that gosto often, or very often, I'm always afraid to use the word always, Vini, but help me here, comes with a preposition. So then it's easier for you to remember that it's gostar de alguém, gostar de algo, gostar de do, instead of gostar something, gostar, you know what I'm talking about? So when you learn in a context, so you see how this particular word in Portuguese connects with other words and how they come often together. And that help you also, instead of rationalizing, instead of understanding all the grammar behind that it's hard to really understand, you just feel eventually you will just feel like, okay, I have to say that word together with this other word because that's how Brazilians always use. That's how Brazilians always say. Does that make sense, Vini?
It does, and I agree with you. Yeah.
Okay, so perfect. That was our second episode as promised. And to finalize this episode, I wanted to say that to overcome what Vinicius said about fear of making mistakes and this fear that comes from inside, it's good to have a community where you feel like you can make mistakes and you have supportive people to help you. And that's something we are building. So check the link we are going to leave here. So the classes, the group, the course we are launching has to do with that, with something prepared for us to guide you during 2 months in a conversation. So classes with guided conversations, extra exclusive materials, and that kind of environment with other people at the same level of you that are struggling, having the same struggles, and that are not afraid of making mistakes. And then we offer you this kind of environment to help you grow and help you achieve fluency.
Exactly. And with two teachers who love what they do, and we're really excited, we're really passionate about helping our students. So we're really excited about this project. We've been working on this for quite some time. So please, guys, check it out. We have been working really hard to offer you guys something that will be really helpful, that will take you to the next level in your Portuguese learning. So please check the links, and we are really excited to see you guys there.
Yeah, and we are with butterflies in our stomach, right? With this launching moment that we are now, we want to see how this is going to work and how helpful this is always going to be to you guys. That is our main purpose, to help you. So this was another episode of Don't Panic, Keep Speaking Portuguese. Stay with us, stay tuned. Go also there in the Brazilian Talk. Those of you who are listening this on the Keep Speaking Portuguese podcast, you can also check the Brazilian Talk show to find other interesting episodes they have recorded. And we hope to be together again soon. And if possible, we hope to see you live in our online program.
Exactly, right? And we need to tell people that it's a very limited number of students that we're taking in, because we want to offer the students the best experience. So we are not having a lot of students per group and just a few groups, because we really want to put on the time to help each one of you. So we don't want to rush anyone, but if you are interested in participating, please check the links as soon as possible so you can make sure that you get your spot, your seat in this group, and we'll be really excited to be helping you guys closely.
Perfect. So now, to end this episode, would you give me the honor to finalize as we usually finalize, Vini? Would you do that with me? Usually it's me and Erica, but Erica on this last 2 episodes is more in the backstage. So I'm gonna say, and you complete. After all this experience, after all this sharing, just don't forget, don't panic.
Keep speaking Portuguese.